Adam Schiff, he's on here trying to explain that the reservoirs were not empty. He's saying there was nothing out of the ordinary here. They had the water. He said it was just a fire, basically, and I'm alluding here, is that he's basically saying that the fire was just so much that it didn't matter how much water they had. I mean, that's kind of what he's getting at. And I'm going to play this clip for you, and you hear exactly what I'm talking about. But that's what he's alluding to. That, well, because this guy here, he brings up the fact that they didn't have any water. And then because they didn't have any water, Adam Schiff, being who he is, remember he was censored in the House when he was a House of Representative. Now that he's a senator, I guess he's just picking back up where he left off by not being factual about the information that he's putting out there. This guy, Adam Schiff, literally says that the water was there before the fire began. Now, we have actual documentation that we're going to show you about the water right before the fire. Actually, it was 3 months before this fire started that the reservation reservoir, I don't know why I can't get that out. The reservoir was empty 3 months before the fire. So what is Adam Schiff talking about? Is he talking about a reservoir in the back of his home? I mean, what's going on? Yeah, so go ahead and play this clip. Listen to
your understanding. Why did some of those, or so many of those fire hydrants simply run dry? Was there something to do with that 117 million gallon reservoir in the Palisades that was out of operation? What's your understanding? What's your initial read on this?
Well, my initial take, and I certainly want a full review of this so that I can form a more complete understanding of the matter. But my initial understanding is the reservoirs that the Palisades were drawing on, these 3 million gallon reservoirs, were full at the initiation of these fires. But they're intended, frankly, they have the capacity to put out homes at maybe a house, multiple houses, not if the whole town is up in flames. And most particularly not if the winds are so strong that aircraft can't fly. And this was the problem in the very beginning. The winds were hurricane force, up to 100 miles an hour winds. You can't fly in that, and you depend on being able to do water drops to put down those kind of flames. And I have to think there are probably hundreds of towns in California, thousands and thousands across the country that are in equally the same position, that if they had 100-mile-an-hour winds and a lot of dry fuel, they wouldn't have any more water than this community did.
Oh, so that's the problem. Because they had the water, according to Adam Schiff. The problem wasn't the lack of water, even though the fire trucks went up to the fire hydrant for the first time and the fire hydrant just happened to be empty of water even before they even touched it thing. No, that had nothing to do with it. The reason why, not because of the water, is because of the winds, right? And you notice he didn't even mention the fact that before we got to this issue with the fires in California, that they did not clear the brush. They did not clear the floor. You remember President Trump in 2018, he stood in California, and him and Kevin McCarthy talking to Gavin Newsom, saying, look, we need to put the money in here or the funds. He didn't say money. We need to clean the floor. And President Trump is full aware that it takes funding to do that because you have to pay the people. You have to pay the workers. You have to pay for the equipment, et cetera, maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. So what ended up happening, Gavin Newsom, from what we're looking at, the information that we have that's been gathered, that we're all seeing, is that they receive money to clean the floor, the forest, the dry leaves, the weeds, just everything that would ignite the fire or will allow the fire to just have fuel. And apparently, from what we're looking at, is that Gavin Newsom refused to do that. There was even a story that President Trump said, let's open up the reservoirs from Canada to California, so then that way we can constantly have the water coming into California for these fires. And Gavin Newsom said no to that. He rejected it. So now here we are. Look at this one. Here's a statement. And on X, and y'all have heard Mark Zuckerberg here recently said that he's going to adopt the whole community notes the way they have it on X. Go ahead and put this up here. So here you have Adam Schiff with the community notes applied to the video, to this video, because he put that video on X. Senator Schiff is incorrect. Of course, this was the community notes on X. Pacific Palisades is served by the Santa Ana, how do you say that one? Reservoir, which holds 117 million gallons of water. It was empty for maintenance at the time of the fires broke out. So it was empty. And now Newsom has ordered an investigation. Really? Now he had ordered an investigation. My question is that if Gavin Newsom knew that these fires took place all year round, because he just said this in a statement. He said this is not fire season because we have fires all year round. Is it his job to make sure that the people that are under him are doing their jobs? Now, look, I'm the first one to go against micromanagement. I don't like micromanagement. You know, if I'm doing a job, let me do my job. Now, when it comes time for review, and I would imagine when it comes to making sure that the reservoirs are in order and have 117 million gallons of water, let's make sure it's there. I would imagine that clearing the brush from the floor of the forest, right? Making sure all of this flammable material that's on the ground is removed, control burning. I would imagine that after a review of 3 months, it should be something of every 3 months, right? It should be 3 months. And I think that's minimum, right? Because 3 months could be quite a bit. You have to give them time to go ahead and go through there. But I think there should be review of these people in these positions for every 3 months. That's to make sure. Why? And maybe right now it should go down to once a month until they can actually get everything in order. Because look, this should have never gotten to this level. We're talking about tens of thousands of homes. Tens of thousands of homes. These are people that lived in these homes all their lives, and now they're just gone, completely gone. This is 100% negligence. Now, I know there's been other cases where people have been in political positions and they've actually gone to jail because of negligence. Me personally, I think this is criminal negligence. Gavin Newsom didn't do his job. He didn't make sure that the people that were up under him were doing their jobs. He didn't make sure and verify that the governor or the mayors in these cities are doing their jobs. And I'm willing to go on a limb here without seeing any of the other mayors throughout the state of California. I'm willing to go on a limb and say, you know what? Let's check our water situation right now. Because if we get a fire here, we don't want to look like LA. I'm willing to go on a limb. That's exactly what they're doing right now. And they're probably making phone calls. Okay, well, they're not going to get any water transported to them right now, even if they are low. So this could become another problem because now they're still trying to divert as much water as possible to Palisades.
You know, and the funny thing, Will, is that honestly, they had these alerts out there. They knew the situation that was coming. They knew that these hurricane force type winds were coming their way. They knew that there was dry brush out there. They knew that this is a typical hazard for California. This isn't anything new. It happened a couple years ago up in Paradise, California. If you remember, 85 people were killed in that fire. Similar situation. A fire came in, power lines went down, started a huge fire, and people could not get out in time. Horrible thing. So they knew this situation was coming. Why would you order maintenance on a reserve, any reserve during this time? Any. Knowing the situation that you're in.
Why
it doesn't make sense. You're right. There needs to be answers. But you know what? Gavin Newsom, for him to just sit there and say, oh, we need to, plan to have, an investigation. I don't know if people are really going to go look at that like, oh, he's trying to do something, or if they're going to think something else. Why he has alternative reasons for doing this.
And now every time I see a post that's out there from, like, for example, there's a post from Governor Abbott here in the state of Texas, and he actually put a comment on there about what's happening in California and that he's actually going to send resources. And Gavin Newsom now all of a sudden is acting like, oh, yeah, we're working with Republicans and Democrats. We're coming together for times like this. And the only reason why I believe that Gavin Newsom is doing this is because he's trying to make himself look better. He's trying to make himself look like he's a leader. He's the reason why this is happening. He's part of the reason. Okay, he's part of the reason. I'm not saying he's the reason why the fires are there. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that because of his negligence, because of the people up under him, they didn't do their jobs. It falls on him. He should be taking responsibility for it, but he's not wanting to. He's wanting to deflect as much as possible. You remember Larry Elders? Larry Elders was running against Gavin Newsom. And Larry Elders would have been a phenomenal governor. Now, if people have their reservations about him, okay, sure. But I think he would have did a better job than Gavin Newsom. See, Gavin Newsom personally, I think he's only in this position because he's looking for the presidential run in 2028. That's the only reason why he's there, to try to make himself look good. But now this fire that just took place in California, this is not helping him. You have Democrats, Hollywood Democrats, upset with Gavin Newsom because they know ultimately it falls on him. They know it falls on him. He's the governor. It is his job to make sure everyone else is doing their jobs. He's the boss, right? He's the boss. Let me put it this way. Let's pretend California is a football team and you go into the championship. All right, now actually you go into the playoffs, and you go into the playoffs every year. And every year the same coach is taking the team into the playoffs. And every year going into the playoffs, you get burned going into playoffs. So you don't even go anywhere. You just automatically get burned going into the playoffs. And guess what happens? The coach ends up getting fired. Like, we can't do this. You're not winning anything for us. We're losing because of you. So you have to get fired. Gavin Newsom should be fired. Listen to Larry Elders here in this clip, and he's talking about the very thing, because a lot of people were not calling out Gavin Newsom to resign. Trudeau just resigned in the state of California, and you know what? Go ahead and split screen it. Trudeau and Gavin Newsom, they remind me of each other. Big time. But listen to this.
You've called for the mayor of L.A. to resign. You've not called yet for the governor to resign. The prime minister of Canada just resigned. Why don't we get both of them to resign?
Here it goes. I'm calling on Gavin Newsom to resign. We can make it official. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's almost unsaid now. The guy is wholly unfit for this position. Look at the budget. A budget's a reflection of your priorities. We're spending barely $200 million on wildfire prevention, which is an 80% cut from a few years ago. We're spending $5 billion a year on illegal immigrant healthcare. That's what they care about, Larry. Mm-hmm. They care about illegal aliens. They care about bullet trains to nowhere. They don't care about preventing wildfires or fighting fires. That's not a sexy issue for them. So he needs to go. Karen Bass needs to go. How the hell do you fly out of the state when you know you're going to have an extreme weather event in a dry season in your city? How the hell do you go out of town? And then she says, "Oh, I was in contact. I was on the phone." We don't want a mayor working remotely. She needs to be there in the city with the people. She's a joke.
She is a joke.